Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Walker, and this is going to be my review over my semester of what I've learned in assessment and special education for semester of 2021 at Fort Hays State. Let's get started. There we go. A preview of what we're going to be talking about today in my presentation is least restrictive environment, how it pertains to the special education, the assessment process, parent involvement in the assessment process, and derived scores. So what is least restrictive environment and how does it pertain to the special education program? Well, least restrictive environment, or LRE, is a principle that guides your child's education program. There's a law for the Law of IDA, or Individuals with Disability Education Act, that protects all students and parents and says that we need to provide all students with free, appropriate education. And so we do that through the IEP process, which involves students, parents, special education teachers, representatives, interpreter if needed, things like that. All these people come together as a team to make sure that all students are put into a least restrictive environment or inclusion. What that means and what it looks like is different for every student. They go through the assessment process, which we'll talk about later, and it gathers their strengths and weaknesses and puts them into an environment that's going to best suit their education. And like I said, that is different for every student. Some students may be in a general education classroom all the time, but would be included with resources and supplementary aids and services to help them in that environment. Some other students may be in the general education classroom half the time, and then the other half in a different room or with other teachers. Like I said, that's going to look different for every student, and that's why we're going to talk about the assessment process and how we choose that. But the law says that we need to put them in the least restrictive environment, and that's different for every student. So to include students as much as possible into the general education classroom and provide them with services to get that education. So the assessment process is a cycle, and the reason we say that is because revised outcomes are implemented and students' learning evaluated following a process that leads to further revision. What that means is that we do all these things. We collect, analyze, evaluate, and determine, and then we may need to adjust, and most likely we'll need to adjust and do it all again. Then we analyze what we've come up with. We collect data on that. We evaluate it, and we determine more outcomes. Or, more ways that we can improve this process. What that looks like is components of special education assessment process. So what are the components? Like I mentioned before, collect, analyze, evaluate, determine, and then our recommendations. Collecting is we're collecting data and gathering all these things that would be with the team. So we have special education teachers, parents are involved in that, teachers, like PE teachers, everyone else is gathering all this information. And then we're going to analyze it. So we're going to determine if there are patterns, and then we're going to evaluate, and that is determining their strengths and weaknesses. We're going to determine what we're going to do about that, and then we're going to implement our recommendations. And then again in the cycle, we would take those recommendations, collect more data, analyze that data, evaluate, determine, and come up with more recommendations. It's an ever-going cycle. Eventually, we would want that cycle to come to an end, per se, because we would want to reach the goal, but it's ever going. We're always going to be chasing for a better education for our students. And we want to, in this process, encourage family participation. It's a team. We want to make sure that parents feel comfortable coming to us, and what we can do to do that is communicate, have commitment, equality, skills, and respect. So in our assessment process, we want, and through the IEP, we want parents to feel comfortable being part of the team because we need their help. Communication is key. We want to make sure that we're communicating through email, text, letters home, in person, and we can do all this with the help of parents, but also making sure that the way we are communicating with the parents is the best way possible for them. Having commitment, we want to make sure that we are committed in our communication with our parents. So we want to make sure that parents are getting the resources they need, that there's signage when they come to the school so that they feel comfortable approaching the school. We want to make sure that there are interpreters if need be, there are signs and communication in order to help them reach those. And that could be commitment to the parents on making sure we're sending home a letter every week. We want to make sure that we're having that. Equality. Equality means that we need to provide parents with the information that they need to get their student the best education. So we want to make sure that they're getting their information, getting the information, but also getting it in the language that better suits them, having culture equality, ethnicity and race equality as well. Skills means that our teachers need to be educated in helping the parents get the information. They need to know that we have the information that we need to better help their student, their child. And respect. We need to address them with Mr. or Mrs., communicate respectfully with their culture, providing those things for our parents so that they all feel comfortable. All of these are just ways to encourage family participation, make sure that they feel comfortable coming to us and are able to communicate with us in their best way possible. They need to know that we respect them. And lastly, what we're going to be talking about today is the percentile ranks, standard scores, and stay nines. We want to make sure that this is how we get our information to better suit our students, the assessment process, and where they fall. Percentile ranks is the frequency distribution that are equal to or lower, and standards, individual scores that are derived from the mean score, and then standard 9, or stay 9's the standard 9. Percentile ranking is taking those students with percentages. So this is just taking it to the basics of 100%, 90%, 50% of students. Standard 9 is the mean score with all of those, and the mean score is expressed as a deviation from the mean score of the group, of the standard deviation. And then standard 9 is breaking those percentages and standard scores into groups. That's breaking it down. So 1, 2, and 3 is in the bottom 23% of students, and 7, 8, 9 is in the top 23% of students, and in the middle there is the 4, 5, and 6 range is the group of percentiles or the group of standard scores. So each one of these is just kind of breaking it down into smaller groups. And each one of these can be taken into the assessment process, but they're just kind of shown in different ways, as you can see here on the graph to the side. So the standard is the mean, percentile is the percent, and then the STA9 or the standard 9 scale is breaking down each one of those into a group of students. And this is where we take our information, whether or not the students are in the top half, the bottom half, or right there in the middle, and then we can determine what kind part of our assessment process is determine where they're going to be, what kind of least restrictive environment they're going to be put in, gather that and collect the information for students to be placed in the least restrictive environment, and to get the best education program that they can get. And us parents, teachers, and staff are all there to gather this information, collect the data, put them in IEPs, put them in a least restrictive environment, and they get the education that they need, hopefully, and then we go through the assessment cycle again. So that's kind of where we're at. That's how everything went together in this presentation. I'm sorry if it was a little all over the place, but I hope you understood everything I was saying, and I thank you guys for listening. You have a great day.